Okay. Now, so how I came to make this film is a separate story, but I was very much involved in the deaf world and got slowly involved in filmmaking, quite separate from my academic appointment and my academic work. And then in the course of a few years, it started to integrate with one another. And I noticed that my filmmaking was being appreciated by my colleagues in the university. And the film I Sign I Live, that is also running in this festival, was shown to my colleagues. And the funny thing is, now maybe I should first say what the film is about. The film is about elderly deaf people. And they're living in a very special center for elderly deaf in the Netherlands. It's the only center of its kind, I think, in the world, where sign language is the language that everybody is using, where staff members are deaf, not all of them, but a majority, where everybody is obliged to learn sign language. And there I shot the film to get the stories of these elderly deaf people, and they're being interviewed by a young deaf guy who has facing similar sorts of questions and problems in his life. When I showed the film to colleagues, they were quite amazed, as they said, "Huh? Is there a history in the deaf community of sign language being forbidden? How is that possible? In a country like the Netherlands, it's so tolerant. How can that be? That must be hundreds of years ago." "No, it's only 20 years ago." "What? This is amazing. Nobody knew about it." And this is anthropologists who study cultural minorities all the time. They just didn't know anything about the deaf world. So that was my colleagues and other academics in other social sciences. And then the film was also, of course, shown in the deaf world. The deaf world. I take that as a shortcut for a whole variety of kinds of people and ages and backgrounds. And they too, they were very enthusiastic about it. And this has to do with the fact that deaf children are usually born in hearing families, and deaf parents usually have hearing children, and there's no natural exchange of stories and ideas of culture between the generations. It's quite separate. So a lot of the young deaf don't know about the stories of the elderly, and the other way around. The elderly deaf people don't know very much how the young are living their lives. So for them it was an eye-opener too. And what was very interesting is a recent experience I had as the film was shown in Japan for a deaf community there. And I got the reactions back and they said, "How can it be? We never knew that sign language was forbidden in Europe as it was here until recently. We always thought it was a typically Japanese thing, and now there's these people in Europe that seem to have a similar history. How wonderful." And it was it was an eye-opener in the deaf world as well. So yeah, I think that made me very happy, both as an anthropologist and as somebody involved in the deaf world, and also as a filmmaker, of course. So what can I ask for more?